In this 50th episode, I would like to thank you, the listener of Lights Camera Zadi, who stuck around for such a long time with me. I know many of you, the silent listeners of the show, are listening to this in the corner of a house while doing long walks, while working out, while driving, while doing house chores, trying to learn a thing or two, trying to hear the voices who challenge the status quo. I want to tell you that this show is all because of you. It is only because you choose to tune in to this podcast against all the other content available on the internet. And I want to tell you, in this ride ahead, we are in it together. Thank you for being a patron of Lights Camera Azadi. So, 3, 2, 1, very warm welcome. What a very special episode of Lights Camera Azadi. This is the remarkable 50th episode. When I started the journey, I never quite realized I'll make it to 50th episode, to be honest, and also not even my friends and my family realized. But here we are after started the journey in Feb 2020, and after almost 18-20 months recording the 50th episode with four amazing listeners of the show. Allow me and give me the honor to introduce everyone. I have Shubham, who is the first and probably one of the youngest listeners of the show. He was, with me when I was conceptualizing the show. He gave me feedbacks of the initial episodes, and he has been a constant listener since then. Then we have Mahesh, who has been in constant touch with me in the last 8 to 10 months. Both interacted on Clubhouse, and he constantly recommends guests. And some of the guests are also coming on the show in the few episodes. He's a very valuable listener to me as well. And then we have Rishabh. Rishabh has been quite an active listener of the show from the past 1 year, and loved his feedback and engagement with the show as well. And then finally, we have all the way from Pakistan, Musa, who is currently residing in Poland, and he's one of the international listeners of the show. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for being part of this episode. This means a lot to me that you are taking this time out on a Sunday morning just after Christmas at 9:30 a.m. I hope we all make a fun conversation. Quickly, I would I would start with the first question, and I would just go in the same order I have introduced you guys. That why you thought? I mean, what got you hooked to Lights Camera Azadi, and what was so special or different that you guys, you became like a loyal listener of the show. What was it so special for you? And Shubham, I'll just start with you there.
So, hi everyone, I'm Shubham, and I've been a listener since the very beginning of the show. Uh, my reason for being hooked to the show is I think it fills a very important void in the podcasting community uh, currently. We have shows that talk about social issues, that talk about political issues, but I think from a perspective of a normal person, the show manages to keep it very real to the ground. So I feel that that's why I got hooked to the show, and I'm still listening to it to this day.
And Shubham, how did you got introduced to Lights Camera Azadi?
Yeah, so uh, I was introduced through you only. I so we got together, and during the conceptualization, you told me that you wanted to make a podcast about how issues affect us and you. So yeah, I'm listening from that time only, from the very beginning.
And Shubham, do you realize the first name that I gave to you that before it became Let's Camera Azari? Do you remember that?
Not sure. I think nah, no, I don't even
I think
remember
it
it now.
was for everybody. It was called something like Ground Zero.
I
Uh,
think yeah.
yes, and then Shubham was very candid and he said this is like very cliched and very regular and very mainstream. And the reason it was called Ground Zero, this is a small anecdote there that. Uh, how Lights Camera Azadi started was we used to go to protests that time, citizenship movement, and I used to bring in like lot of insights about the people and what is happening during this protest at certain areas. So I thought like even if I start a podcast, it should like focus on the ground reality. So I thought it should be called Ground Zero, but I mean I'm glad it was not called Ground Zero. But yes, moving to Mahesh. Hi Mahesh. Mahesh, what got you hooked to Lights Camera Azadi, and like how were you introduced to it?
Hi guys. So I was introduced to your this podcast with Buffalo Intellectual episode. That was the first episode of which I listened to, and after that, I was on a trip, so I just like checked out your profile, and I really liked. There were people who were already was following from Ambedkarite Bahujan community, and there's a lot of these people don't get covered by the mainstream so-called platforms. So I don't able to hear them for a very long time without like a lot of interruption, like let them speak their heart out. That's what got me hooked. So
Musa, what about you? How did
Yeah,
you? What got you hooked to a very, very sort of a different genre, maybe for you, from a different country to Lights Camera Azadi?
I mean, initially we both know each other through a mutual friend,
Yeah.
and so he told me that I got in contact with you, and then we were talking, and then I saw that you were starting a podcast, and I mean, as I'm already listening to podcasts from other countries, I would say like English-speaking countries, the UK, US, or within Europe, and then it made more sense to know what's happening in India as we are so geographically connected with each other. I think it gave me more of an insight into what's happening with the local intelligentsia and what happened. I think Shubham mentioned before as well. Like you're covering things or giving a place for people who are not really covered usually by big media. So that was really interesting for me. So it's cool to get to know more about what's happening inside the country.
Thanks, Musa. And Asha, what about you? How did you got introduced to Lights Camera Azadi, and what got you hooked so far?
So I found Lights Camera Azade by the Buffalo Intellectual Wala episode itself. And like it was the amount of like the kind of people that you sort of get onto the platform and the kind of voices that you platform that got me hooked into Light Camera Azadi. Actually, I'm very new to this Ambedkarite movement itself. Like I found it very recently, I would say like 2 years back, because I come from a very I mean, I did my bachelor's in fashion, and I come from a second generation educated Bahujan family, so for and which was really Brahmanized. So I was all into mostly like visual arts and stuff. So I never really uh, got interested into the art side of things. So lately, then I started reading and stuff, and I kind of discovered Lights Camera Azadi. I mean, I found Bahujan Intellectual on Instagram, and through him, I came to Lights Camera Azadi.
Oh yeah, Buffalo is great, yeah. I mean, that episode is such a memorable episode for me. Uh, I mean, I don't know if you guys remember or were you guys following me or not, but that episode was like it blew out of proportion. This was the first episode of 2021, and it it blew out of proportion. I had never seen such numbers till date. It is the highest heard episode so far, and and he really like strike a chord with many listeners, many potential eventual guest as well, then invited him as well. So that is, and it got me listeners like you all. So I'm very grateful to him, and he's doing some amazing work. By the way, like, he revealed his face a few days ago, if you have
I
not
know.
noticed. So yes, yes. But yeah, I had the privilege to know him personally. Just flexing. Great. And also, I mean, please feel free anybody to jump in here. I don't want to just say, "Ki, acha, you speak and you speak." Just whoever wants to contribute, please do this. I specifically want to know that how what were your key episodes and moments this year, and like what got you going. And pretty sure like you guys have heard some decent amount of episodes, but yeah, what were your key highlights for specifically this year? And obviously, if you want to talk about previous episodes, previous years as well, that would be fine as well. Yeah, Shubham, what do you think? How what was a highlight for you for this season?
So I think the RSS episode with Bhavarlalji was, I think, the best episode so far in the series. I think it comes a close second to the Buffalo Intellectual episode, but like I really liked how it went on for like 3 hours, and 3 hours of actual great conversation. So I had read his book, I Could Not Be a Hindu, and it was, the book itself was pretty great. And after hearing his thoughts along for a lot more time, about how like caste wasn't RSS, and how RSS had this image cultivated like with my family and with my I think the Banya community itself. They have a very strong impact and image around them, and knowing about it and how they cultivate it, I think that was very interesting and also a little eye-opening, I feel.
Hmm. Yeah, and Shubham, I would also like to ask you this. I mean, you and I, we come from, an UC background,
Hmm.
upper caste background. How has, and you are an upper caste listener who has constantly engaged with the caste discourse. So, how has your understanding changed by the kind of topics we have covered this year, or and even in last year as well?
Yeah, I'll just admit it that I had no uh, idea or no information or no knowledge about the caste movement before I started listening to the podcast. Just straight away, I did not have anything. All the textbook material, right? The ones
Hmm.
you read in schools and history books and political science books. I only had that context. And after listening to many episodes, like we have constantly covered this caste discourse in our this particular season, correct?
Yeah.
So, like listening to it, I've actually learned about many things that I didn't even notice earlier about how it's prevalent in colleges and how matlab the things that actually make people feel different, or how there is a hegemony among schools themselves. Uh, from the school that I am, I can see that most of my friends or most of my classmates were from a background that I do belong to. So, knowing that I did not have any discussion or correlation with a certain section of people, that was very different and very, I mean, it was quite shocking to me that I haven't engaged with a section of people. I don't know anything about them. And I think the podcast has given me a lot of context information about this.
Hmm. Yeah. And I also Bhavarji's episode. I mean that the tragedy is that it didn't achieve the numbers that it could have. I mean, it's such a, and I'm not saying this that yeah, it is. I did the podcast or I did that episode, but the
Hmm.
kind of content that Bhavarji brought to the table, it was amazing. It was anybody who is like remotely interested in right wing India. Many people say that Dalits are voting for BJP. BJP is default Dalit party. I mean, I agree to that statistically, but you also that does not mean that BJP and RSS generally has a caste problem in it. And that is something that he brought to the table, that yes, I mean, there are many people from the Dalit community who are actively engaging with RSS as well, but that doesn't mean that they have not experienced discrimination. And there will be a section of people who will vote for them, and maybe they will vote for them even further. I mean, who knows that? But that does not negate that there is a issue of caste problem in the overall organization. And how he goes on to tell that even the concept of Hindu Rashtra itself sort of is itself very similar to how Brahmins and upper caste sort of envision a caste hegemony in India. So, and yeah, unfortunately it didn't got that numbers that I really wanted it to get, but I'm sure, I mean, the podcast eventually, the content eventually reaches to the audience, or if the audience reaches to the content, it's sometimes the other way around. uh yes. And Mahesh, how was this season for you?
Actually, I got introduced to your show with this season
Yeah.
itself, right?
Yeah.
Going back to what we were talking about, the Buffalo Intellectual episode, even though I was introduced by it, so that's the first episode. Normally, I send it to friends from your podcast, and to introduce Buffalo Intellectual as well. Normally, when you see Buffalo Intellectual has a very sharp critique, and of all like
Yeah.
Savarna liberals and everything, right? And if you
Yeah.
listen to other podcasts, it can be just like a whiplash, right? And this is the first episode I normally send so that you can get introduced to Buffalo Intellectual and his thought process, and then later get into the other stuff. Um, Other than that, like I really like the episode with Yoshi Shah, Bani Aiko Chamber.
Hmm.
It was
Hmm.
very interesting for me to see like how like normally there are a lot of like Bahujan voices, right? We're talking about caste, so it kind of gives the impression caste only exists with us. So like apart from the discrimination thing, how the social circle is maintained, like tell us from your side. Like so for me that was very fascinating because like a lot of things which I wasn't aware of. There's a lot of like I can't pick and choose a particular episode because there's a lot of like voices which I like to be heard. Like Jyoti Nisha, being a filmmaker myself,
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of her work is like I've been following her for a very long time, and it was very interesting to hear her this thing. But for me, what was the most impactful was Shweta Goswami episode.
Hmm.
It was very hard for me to listen to. At the same time, very impactful. So I don't think I can forget that episode in time. So
Yeah, dude. I mean, so yes, we did talked about Buffalo's episode as well. He was awesome, and I mean, no amount of words can talk about it. But yes, also Neoshi, the kind of work she's doing, I think she is sort of setting an example for many upper caste who that how they can actually be anti-caste, and how they can, I mean, it's very difficult. I mean, she is talking and critiquing her community in her research, uh, you know uh, taking it forward that how Bania community is sort of doing caste based discrimination, sharing her experiences, unlearning, then coming to shows like us and talking about it. Also, the tragic part again, and I'm just touching of these tragedies, is the tragic part there was, I remember Neoshi telling me that I am the only other Bania that he has spoken these details and these nuances to. And she said, I have never discussed this with any other Bania. And I have only discussed this with fellow Bahujans and, people from obviously who are generally Ambedkarite, anti caste, voices. And this is the first time I'm discussing at length the issues in Bania community with another fellow Bania, which is so weird, right? I mean, to give people context who may not understand Indian reality, who are international listeners, think about it as, and this may not be the best example, but just to oversimplifying here, it is that imagining a white person saying that I have never discussed issues of racism with another white person. I've only discussed this with only a black person. This is the context of that episode, and the good part about that was that it did had good numbers. So and Nyoshi as such is not like a sort of a a name which is like a very very popular name in the discourse, or as such he's still young in a research. But surprisingly, to my surprise, it did got good numbers, and it is still like, I think, top 5 episodes of this year. Yeah, so very surprising. Even I was very surprised with that. So that speaks a lot that people want to know. I mean, I'm pretty sure many upper caste voices have heard that episode as well. So yes, so it did brought a very unique perspective to the table. And yes, Jyoti's episode was like great. I mean, she's an amazing filmmaker, and having Bahujan filmmakers sort of makes us realize the importance of caste sensitivity that we need to get in Bollywood. And we could sort of create a platform through sort of that episode, that how Bahujan filmmakers think. So sort of that episode is great that way. And yes, Shweta's episode was, it was very hard for me also to go through it, but it was the hardest for Shweta. And small anecdote there, after the episode was done, I think within 24 or 48 hours, Shweta comes to me and say that I don't want the episode out. And I told her that, if you don't want it out, then I mean, I respect your decision. But I sort of also persuaded her and said that, just think about it, it's a great episode. See if you want to take it out. It deserves to be out. And she then spoke to Disha, who has been on the show in the last year, and who also introduced me to Shweta, by the way. So, and then they realized, they said that okay, this is a good episode and we should get it out. And yes, it has been so far. And yes, I think many other listeners has said this as well, that it has been a tough episode for people to listen to. Uh, the kind of work she is doing, specifically around child, you know issues of child molestation, etc. And whatever issues she's working on, it's very sensitive, and she's doing a great work. uh, and I know, like, on the contrary, I'm taking a lot of space in this episode and speaking a lot. But yes, I will now take a step back, and Musa, over to you, man.
I mean, in terms of episodes as well, I think for me, RSS was a really, I think, eye-opening one as well. We hear a lot about RSS as well in Pakistan now more than
Ever.
before, more than ever, yes, because it's been also politicized inside Pakistan, just to say all the time that it's specifically kind of attached to the current Prime Minister of India.
Hmm.
So how he grew up in the ranks of RSS. So hearing that and understanding, okay, it's like a right anti something party and it's a right wing party, but never really looking into how the party is run. So I was also very intrigued during the conversation that you had with the person that there's only certain uh, I think वो कह रहे थे कि सिर्फ ब्राह्मण हैं जो टॉप पे हैं, like in
हाँ
terms
हाँ
of
हाँ,
supporting
correct.
everything. And it's मतलब there is like name drops in terms of कभी किसी को कहीं पे कर देते हैं जो शायद
Hmm.
ब्राह्मण ना हो. But if you look, I really liked it how he said that if you look at it, all the decisions are being taken by a certain, I would say,
Correct.
sect or a certain caste.
Hmm.
And but that also made me think that it's very true about uh, Pakistan. Maybe if I look at it now, it's very true. Like Pakistan in general, when it comes to caste, it's not. We don't talk that much about caste. Like it's there, but I think it's still kind of a taboo subject in the sense के नहीं पाकिस्तान में caste नहीं, ये सिर्फ इंडिया में ही होता है, ये चीज़ हमारे यहाँ तो
Hmm.
कुछ भी नहीं. But if you look at from my state Punjab specifically, power places सिर्फ जट caste के पास. So
अच्छा.
if it's in the military, if it's in the bureaucracy, if it's anything that you see, that if you're a judge, you're considered more highly, or you're from a land-owning caste.
Hmm.
Uh, Another thing that I don't know if you know, but I think Christians account for about 2% of Pakistan's population,
Hmm.
but most of them are those Christians that were converted by British missionaries during British Raj. And why they converted? They basically converted, as far as I know, they were also from the Dalit caste before. So
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
converted in the sense there's Muslims as well from that who were Dalit before, and they converted because they
Correct.
thought it will help them gain a status in the society. But even in Pakistan now, it's not. They're still considered in the same way as untouchable, or people don't eat in restaurants that have Christian
Oh.
cooks
Oh
because
wow.
they're,
Oh.
oh, I mean, it's not that widespread now, but it is still there in the smaller cities that you cannot, I will not eat from the same plate. So it's very extreme. And then if you look at the village life, so if I'm going back to my village, there are people who are not allowed to sit on chairs if you're there. If you're a landowning caste, they will not sit on chairs. They will sit on the ground besides you. So I think the parallels are very. I mean,
It's
we
crazy. Yeah.
were we were anyways one country at one point, so it's not a coincidence that these things are the same. I think the other episode that I liked also was what this you did with this Pakistani guy, I think Shahzad guys. So I think it was also great to finally hear. He also mentions that there's a lot of similarities, and if you ever come to Pakistan, you will know that almost everything is the same. Like I'm jumping between topics, but my parents have been to India some years ago, and when I asked them how it was, they're like everything is the same. The only difference is that the language is like the boards are in Hindi, and here the boards are in Urdu and English. So I would say that's from my side in terms of favorite moments in episode.
No, yeah, Pooja, what you have said, it's sort of so. I mean, in a way it is not shocking, but it is also sort of important to hear it, because caste is a South Asia problem, it's not a India problem. It's a problem which is prevalent in Bangladesh, it's
Mhm.
problem which is present prevalent in Pakistan, it's a problem which is prevalent in Nepal, it's a problem which is prevalent, I think, if even in Sri Lanka. And it is not just prevalent in, I mean, Hinduism, of course, I mean, that is the root cause of casteism, but sort of what caste has done is, and I think Dr. Shivani Kapoor in one of the episodes in the last year mentions this, that the caste system is very sort of flexible. It enters your religion and you don't realize it, that it is entered it,
Mhm.
because the way it has been modeled, that okay, you know, you are at the top, and there's someone who's in the middle, then there's someone at the lower end. It sort of gives a very unanimous, or sort of a very high level of monopoly to certain people. And then people who are in the middle, they it says, Asha, you don't worry about it, you are maybe number 2 or number 3, but there are people who are even below you. So everybody feels powerful until the very bottom, but everybody is sort of equally oppressed as well. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
very complicated system
But
in general, and it sort of gives everybody feels. And then you go into the subcaste of it as well. So even in the caste as well, you
mm,
will see some subcaste who would feel that, okay, though we may be in general maybe lower caste, but there is a subcaste which is even lower than us. So it's just crazily complicated. I don't understand the system completely, I'm not an expert on it. But what it has done is that it has entered religion, and that is how it enters different religions. And you are very right, converted Christians face a lot of discrimination, even in Christianity, even in India. And Cynthia Stephens episode 29th episode of last year's season finale, what is Brahminical Patriarchy, talks exactly about it.
mhm,
And that is how it entered the Islam as well, when uh, convert many converted people from Hinduism went to Islam. It
mhm.
became that, okay, we are Sayyids, or we are Ashrafs, and these people are probably Hindus, and they are sort of, they became then probably, if I'm not wrong, they became OBCs and scheduled caste of today's time.
But
So
it's I think it's very interesting if you draw parallels like our society. I think not just with caste, I think it's the same with rang, color of your skin as well. So the
hmm.
lighter you are, the more benefits you will get in the society.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. And that there also is a caste angle to it, where y- how people sort of call these. And I don't remember who said this to me, I think it was Nikita Sunavne on the podcast who said this. She said that people use caste markers to identify caste. First
Mm-hmm.
they look at surnames. If they don't get the surnames, then they look at caste markers. And caste markers can be sort of a thread as well, a genev, or could be sort of, some people sort of try to make it from your complexion. And people will just do anything. And that is also the problem with the system, yeah. I mean, you, even if people who sort of wanted to escape the system converted, and even if they, when they realize that when we convert, we are sort of
No.
maybe partially better, maybe
Mm.
partially better, but not completely better off. Yeah, but yeah, sorry. And now we're taking a lot of time moving to Rishabh. Rishabh, how was season 2 for you? How was this year? What was a highlight for you?
So there are actually a lot of highlights that I saw in this season. One of them that kind of stood out was Nritya Pillai's episode, where she talks about Bharatnatyam and sort of coming to terms with her caste and her identity in Bharatnatyam. And it kind of hit me as somebody who also practices art in a different form, because when I was going through my NIFT and all of my bachelors and stuff, so when I was practicing like design, so most of whatever I would practice, I would really westernize it, and I would like not take any Indian fabrics or like any Indian weaves, and I would try to stay clear of all of that. And I like now, like I sort of now realize that it was also the fact that for me, somewhere down the line, I wanted to break free from that sort of the because the weaving and all of that embroidery and all of that has been something of a Bahujan what do you call it, job profile, right? So for me,
Hmm.
breaking away from it was something that just came, like as what like what was the thing to me. And I actually wrote about this to Buffalo Intellectual. Like I wrote him a huge message about this ki, how do I actually like, because when you see those artisans, right, like when you read about those artisans, they were really oppressed. So how do I actually adopt a fabric that was produced by somebody who's so oppressed, and like support into that oppression? And then again, like at the same time, like I am also giving away a lot of my heritage, right? That fabric and like all of that art form is also my heritage. So coming to that terms with all of that, like actually Nritya Pillai's episode really like resonated with me, that it's like understanding the, like, addressing the oppression and then accepting sort of, like, what was your heritage. So I mean, yeah, and so that really stood some, like, spoke to me. Then like there are some actually really nice people that the podcast actually introduced me to. So I really liked the episode with Snehashish Das also. Like he is such
Hmm.
a young fellow, and I couldn't believe that he was so, like, fluent, and so like the way he presented his thoughts were really nice. And he spoke something about movement, like, ki when did you become a part of the movement, that really resonated with me, because I literally feel like uh, another life has been given to me, because I really blame the education system यार इंडिया में. It's like so डब्बा, like मतलब हमें 12th तक क्या पढ़ाया. लाइक आई टुक साइंस, ठीक है, हाँ, मुझे क्या पढ़ाया, मुझे कुछ नहीं पढ़ाया, लाइक लिटरली कुछ नहीं पढ़ाया. लाइक कहाँ मैंने यूज किया वो चीज, कहीं नहीं यूज करी. मतलब मैं 11th और 12th में कुछ भी ना करता, घर पे बैठा रहता ना, आज मैं वहीं होता जहाँ पे मैं पहले था. ठीक है, हाँ. So there is, it's like so dabba. Like they could have told us something about what's happening, in the society, because my family is like one of those landowning goon caste, I should not say this, but one of those landowning bahujans, of the North Indian, the cow belt. And my family was so Brahmanized, like it was so Brahmanized. We used to have these yagyas and shit in our house. And like पता है हमारे घर में there would come this baba who would start pretending as if, like, there's ghost coming inside of him. And I was a kid who bought all of that bullshit. Like I was so what do you call it, so religious, like, a few years back, because I bought all that bullshit that was being sold to me, कि भूत आ जाते हैं अंदर, and शक्ति आ जाती है, and this आ जाती है, and that आ जाती है. Like it was because the entire family was believing that bullshit. It was not just me who was buying into that shit. So yeah, that happened. And then like so when I sort of went to my college and everything, I was all like, ki yeah, and it was hammered into my head that you cannot talk about caste. Like caste is something you just don't. It's like caste is something like sex. Like you just don't talk about that to people. So I was like, okay. And then when I went to the college, and like during my ragging, there was this incident. Like people, somebody asked me what your caste is. So I was like, it's like, so and so. So they were like, "Ki, okay, so I am from the Gurjar caste." So they were like, so okay, तुम लोग वो हो ना जो पटरियां उखाड़ देते हैं. I was like, that was the first time that I actually realized, okay, somebody else has a different perception about, like, because I was somebody who was brought up in a family which was like, this is not something, this is not something you have to give a head to, this is not something that you need to care about. And when somebody else actually cared about it, then I was like, okay, other people are caring about this thing. So yeah, that was something. And like how I was talking about Nitya Pillai, right? Like so the Gurjar community in this North Indian Noida wala area is like the really I'm gonna say Goonish so many times and they're gonna kill me. I'm not joking. Yeah. So anyways, they are like those rowdy kind of that attitude, no? So but there is so many like, art forms and stuff that are also associated with the community that has sort of been muddled. And like I remember my family had this tradition of hand embroidery and stuff. So that was where, when I went to college, I wanted to stay away from all of that, because I associated as something that's coming from like my caste heritage and stuff. And I was told that we have to stay away from all of these things. So yeah, that ways Nitya Pillai's episode really resonated with me. And yeah, so Shreyashish Das, and then Yuvan Avis was also somebody that I found through your podcast. And yeah, then I started following and all him on Instagram. Prashant Kanoja. I was literally living under a rock because I did not know about Prashant like at all. Like, and I found him on the
Yeah.
podcast, and then I went and saw all the work that he's done, and I was like, where was I living? Like, how could have I not noticed this person doing such crazy amount of journalism and all of that? And his story was also so inspiring, right? Like he, from a slum in Mumbai, like to coming to, like, being such like such a recognized journalist. And like, uh, he has covered such like great work, like the body of work. So that was also, yeah, like I found quite a good people from the podcast.
No, yeah, I mean, you have touched some amazing threads, and how I realized that everybody has like some personal favorite episodes, which is all unique to them and their journey. And yes, Nitya's episode was, and I think I should also take a moment to sort of mention one of our very, very, prominent listeners of the show. I wish she was here right now. Aditi Deshpande. She is the one who has recommended me Nitya. She is the one who has recommended me Yuan. She has been sort of a lot of listens to the episodes within the first 24 hours it has been out, and she gives me the feedback like in the first two days or so. So I mean, many of the guests have been recommended by her. I don't even remember how many. I think at least three, four for sure. Four, five. I don't even remember. And she keeps on telling me that get this person on the podcast, get this person on the podcast. She would stumble a profile on Instagram and she's like, get this on the podcast. So that is how, I mean, she said that okay, get Nitya on the podcast. She's doing great work there and sort of reclaiming the tradition of Bharatnatyam. And yes, it was also a very great episode, and it had a good reach as well. Also, one of the things that I sort of uh, it's so funny, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it is my bias in thinking, but or it is the fact, but I realize that many other podcasts also pick up guests after they have come on Lights Camera Zadi. And I think, and they have not done it before, if you know what I mean. I remember Jyoti and I remember Nitya also getting, and it's good, yeah, of course. They getting into more podcast after of and Buffalo for sure, Buffalo 100%. But they were not part of the podcast before, and maybe I'm wrong, and I can be wrong also. Maybe I don't have a history of what they have done in the past, but at least that is what it appeared that yeah, I mean people now then, and I like पहले बुला लेते यार, पहले क्यों नहीं बुलाया? Like, why didn't you call them before? Why did you had to like wait for them to come on a podcast like us, and then you decided to call them? uh, so it's interesting. I don't have a sort of an answer to it, but that is sort of one thought as well. And yes, Nehashish ka episode was so good, yeah, so good. I mean, speaking to these people, you realize, yeah, kitna, yeah, you're so privileged and you don't have to pick these battles on a day-to-day basis, but the least you can do is sort of just platform them
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of Sneha, is like like we were constantly talking with them like in on Clubhouse,
on
right?
Clubhouse. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like I met them there. I read the article on Jyotiba Phule, which is like that was brilliant actually, the
yeah,
article. And like Lights Camera Azadi had another life on Clubhouse, which was very fascinating. So like yeah,
yeah.
I
It
think you found a
was,
lot of
it
guests
was.
from Clubhouse, right? Like where you met them, a lot of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I did. And it is. I mean, I wish Clubhouse worked. I don't know. Mahesh, are you on Lights Cameras? Sorry, are you on Clubhouse these days?
No, I just have the app. I just like visit like once a month or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, same for me, yaar. I mean, I was so hopeful of the app, so damn hopeful of the app. I thought it will give me like a fresh audience. It will sort of help me, sort of, also, sort of as a audio content creator. I was very excited for it. I could see plethora of possibilities, and but yeah, dude, like that app screwed itself. Like I don't know what happened, why it didn't work in India. It was, it was so good, but I have no idea, yeah. I wish it
Hmm.
had worked. uh, yes, and I really want to know, guys, what is sort of uh, uh, you guys have heard, Musa, you said you have heard episodes, for you have heard podcast in Europe. Mahesh, you're also an avid podcast listener. Shubham, you too. Rishabh, you too. What makes you sort of what do you think makes Lights Camera Azadi sort of different? Because I would really like to retain it. uh, and what do you think is different in the ways the show is as compared to anybody or any other podcast?
I think for me it's just as an international listener and then specifically Pakistan से तो मेरे लिए तो बिल्कुल मुख्तलिफ है एक हिसाब से like just the whole experience of it and just because it's so focused on internal Indian issues. Uh, so for me it was interesting because I'm interested in India as a country. So of course there's other podcasts as well, I guess, from India which I haven't seen before, but it's also good for me the fact that you're touching on subjects that other people might not touch. But I also feel that as you grow in podcasts, you might start getting people on the podcast who are more well known. So you might be a bit hesitant to talk about things that are larger. That's just my assumption, but that's what I've seen other people do. That they start with very radical ideas or they're touching some taboo subjects, but as they start getting bigger, they kind of cast that aside. Though that is the only differentiating factor that they might have with other podcasts doing the same thing that they're doing. So I think it will be nice if you can retain this aspect of the podcast in terms of being outspoken about things, but
Hmm.
in a very intelligent manner, I would say.
So for me, it's been the guests who have been coming in, right? Like normally, these people don't get platformed in the mainstream this thing, and a lot of them, like normally, most podcasts get guests who already have a certain number of followers, right? So they can like get those followers to their podcast. But a lot of times, like people who do talk as or talk to the establishment or something, they don't have that number of followers, and a lot of people don't want them on their platform or something like that. So hearing these people, normally we just see them on Twitter or Instagram with visuals mostly, like sorry, text or something like that. So hearing their thoughts, how they go through it and everything, that's what gets me into the podcast. And how you as a host like let them like talk for a very long time without being interrupted and like just let their thoughts flow. That's one of my favorite part. Like because I normally cook, so that's when I listen to your podcast or any podcast. So a lot of times just like hearing podcast and like doing my work or something like that, you know, the length of the podcast, like that's very helpful, like so that they can like 30 minutes or something like that, doesn't make that much of sense for the topics we are discussing, right? That's a very like even uh, 2 hours is actually short, but again,
Yeah.
2 hours or 1.5 hours of content, which is like enough to kind of at least to get started on it. If I'm not aware of a certain subject, I can get, get to the resources and start to think about it and everything. So that's my favorite part of like how the podcast functions.
Basically, I think the best part about is that the people I'm getting to know from it, from like the place I am from, I don't see many people on say Twitter or Instagram. My Twitter or Instagram is very sanitized to say at least. Like I don't have uh, diversity in my this social following. So after knowing a lot of people from here, I have started following them. I think that if we can keep bringing in people who are not like well known, but still they speak to establishment and they fight what's the system, so that will be great. And also I like the candidness of the conversation. So most podcasts that I follow, they'll just talk about like 30 minutes with a certain person on a very specific set of topics. You let the conversation flow in LCA. So I think that's a very great achievement of the podcast, to make it to such a length like 3 hours or 3.5 hours of conversation. It's not very easy on a production standpoint as well. But I think you can make it into episodes. I feel like that will be better and easier to consume, I feel.
Yeah, yeah, I have some thoughts there. I mean, I don't want to make it so. I have done two experiments. I don't know if you remember or not, but these are like the first five episodes with Sumaya Sheikh and Dr. Amit. I released it in two parts, 1 hour and 1 hour.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It didn't work out well. I personally felt that nobody sort of tuned in, but also the argument could be ki my listener base was very, very small that time. So maybe today, if I
Yeah,
release an episode in like two parts, I am pretty sure people would be interested in the second part as well. uh, but at the same time, I'm sort of very fearless when it comes to the length of the podcast. I mean, uh, I'm okay yaar, if
hmm,
it is 4 hours or 5 hours. I mean, the only reason I may want to do sort of a small bits here is maybe because I can get new listeners and who would not get like sort of, who would not fear, oh, it's 4 hours, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. uh yeah. So I don't know. I can release some clips here and there, but I'm not very still not. I have not resolved this idea that do I need to release it in parts or not. Before we go to Rishabh, I think, Mahesh, what do you think? I mean, we have talked about this before.
Yeah, we did discuss about this. Like, I do like the length of it, but again, like, I think somewhere around 1.5 to 2 is the ideal time. But yes, like shorter clips does like help, like to like even when I'm sending, like a lot of people when I send it to my friends, they don't want to listen to 1.5 this thing, because like if they want to commit, they want to know what's like when I
Yeah.
come to your part, even if it's 3 hours long, I am sure that I'm gonna get something out of it. But a new person who does not know you or the podcast, they're like, no, I'm not gonna listen to 1.5 hour thing. So it's very helpful for me to send like a clip so that they can get this thing. Oh, this is what they're discussing about, and then they can get into, like, if you want to know more, you can get into the, like, you can listen to the final podcast. What?
Yeah, I'm just saying that the attention span thing is very relevant these days. You see, on Instagram, like you at most like 5 minutes of content is what the people consume. That's the attention span nowadays. So actually getting people interested is very difficult. So yeah, bite-sized information can be very helpful in that case.
Yeah. Yeah, but and I was chatting with Amit for the 49th episode, which will be released today. He did, and I think he said he started the podcast with this assumption, Seen and the Unseen, very popular podcast, that people will just listen to bite information, small episodes, some masala. But then later on, as he progressed in his journey, he realized that uh, people crave depth, people want to know a lot about the subject. So what I feel is that it's just about getting the guest for the first episode, getting them introduced to the first episode, is the challenge. Once they know the episode, once they know the podcast, then they will happily commit a few hours once in a few weeks at any point in time. But I think till the time they don't have the first, they don't have not heard the first some episodes, or like say, acha, this is worth it, maybe they will not. Also, another point that I have is that I, as a podcast listener, uh, I mean, I don't. I mean, it's just me, but I feel a typical podcast listener is not so much concerned about the length. They see the topic, they see the guest, they see they want to engage with it, and I mean, I have heard episodes which are 3 hour long, and I have sort of finished them like over 7 days of time. Uh, but that just me, or I don't know.
Sometimes you sort of save the podcast. Sometimes you sort of save the podcast to watch it at a time where you can spend those 3 hours, right? Like while you're traveling in the bus, you'll have like a watch later ka like I watched the Bhuvar Meghvanshi ji's podcast on a train because I wanted like not to be disturbed because I knew it was an interesting podcast. I saw like a few clips on your Instagram and I saved it to watch later because I wanted to watch it when nobody will disturb me and I can sort of like delve into that world. And then I watched it on a train. So yeah, sometimes you sort of watch the podcast when you have that amount of time that you can watch. And also I would comment one day that आपका जो retention है ना, like the amount of people who keep coming back is actually very high. So in that ways you're actually right कि once somebody is getting introduced to it, like they are keep coming, like they're coming back to listen to the new person that you're
Yeah.
getting onto the podcast. And in the sense of what I like about the podcast is actually the people that you select, like that has been like really bang on because for me who is sort of new to this discourse, I actually like have found so many, like I would say, gems from your podcast, like like who've been doing such great work and at the same time who are actually enlightened in the right way. So in that sense, I think your choice of the guest is really what has like stood out for me, like as compared to any other podcast that I've ever had listened to.
Yeah, and I think one idea where I'll tell you where is this choice coming from. I mean, when I was introduced to the Ambedkarite movement last year, and some Ambedkarites also said this, that see, you don't have a good representation on the podcast, you need to work on it. And I sort of introspected and I did worked on it. Uh, I'll tell you a very practical problem faced by people who are relatively from privileged section, who want to engage with this discourse is they don't have a go-to platform where, I mean, there of course there are, I mean, you can go to Roundtable India, you can go to Ambedkarite circles, and you can do that. But what I really wanted was also sort of a platform where people can just kickstart and understand this discourse. Though it is not labeled as the okay, this is the first episode you hear or this is the second episode you hear, but sort of you still know that okay, this is a place where somebody wants to understand these issues. You can go, and who's relatively new to these issues. So that was also one idea there. So that is where this is coming from, that okay, selection of the guest or the topics that I want to choose. A lot of times also, I don't get recordings because you don't want to just invite any random person. I mean, though they may be popular, though they may have good views, but you sort of want to save your episode with like very relevant folks, and like who are in lines with your existing sort of guest there. So that sometimes delays recordings as well, but that I think that is worth it. Mahesh, we got you interrupted. I mean, few minutes before you were saying something.
What I struggle with the most is like while recommending your podcast is because most of my immediate friends are like because I'm from Karnataka, either they know Kannada or it's English, right? Hindi is very hard for them. So a lot of podcast I do know my friends would love it, but unfortunately they can't understand the language. But I know it's a very conscious choice to keep it in Hindi. Um, but yeah, like so I do manage to send a couple of episodes which are in English so that they can understand better, like somewhere primarily in English or something like that. So I was just mentioning about that.
Yeah, yeah. Language has been like a big fight in my head here. Like, I mean, English is such a natural medium for podcast. It's just a natural medium. If you want to sort of engage, let's say, with very very wider audience, then English is your language. International, you want to send in bhejna ho, India mein kahin bhi bhejna ho, it just you make a content in English, and that it will not be a barrier. Even if people who cannot speak English, they will at least hear it and make sense of it. But my idea was that, see, this is like the problem is in the Hindi speaking belt,
Mhm.
and that is where I want to address the conversation, and they relate the most with Hindi content.
Mhm.
तो मैं सोचा हिंदी में बनाते हैं, एंड सॉर्ट ऑफ मेड इट इन वर्नाकुलर. हिंदी है, इंग्लिश है, जैसे हमने लाइक आवर एपिसोड टुडे इज लाइक 80% इंग्लिश सो फार.
Mhm.
So I said, yeah, let's just keep it that way. So
I have one one question relating to English in the sense from my experience in Pakistan. Is India the same wherein if someone speaks English,
hmm.
they're automatically considered like learned, or they're considered as if ओ ये जरा ऊपर से आ रहा है, पाकिस्तान में लोग जिनको इंग्लिश नहीं भी आती वो मुंह टेढ़ा कर करके इंग्लिश बोलेंगे, विद अ फेक एक्सेंट, like, or someone who's just been to Dubai and comes back starts speaking English, like, bro, calm down. And like especially at least Pakistani Punjab or Indian Punjab में ये बहुत difference when I started meeting people from Indian side of Punjab, from Chandigarh, from Amritsar, they specifically speak Punjabi at home, or they speak like they read Punjabi. So our Punjabi, we have our Punjabi scripture is different. It's not Gurmukhi, but it's you are looked down
Hmm.
upon if you speak Punjabi because it's considered a rash language, even though it's not that. So is it same in every state? In because I know it's very different state by state. Binyan about differences. So uh,
So Shubham is from Punjab. I'm from MP. Mahesh is from Karnataka, and Rishabh is from UP. So we can all talk about our state. I'll just tell you, and I'm living in Delhi NCR. So yes, I mean the part where you are speaking English, sort of, and the fluent you are English speaking, you are considered. There is a sort of elitism in place. Uh, but I think Indians generally take a lot of pride in their regional languages as well, like a lot. So I don't think it is sort of looked down. But yes, I mean, so the way I'm thinking is that you will not be looked down if you speak great Hindi, but you may be looked down if you speak broken English, if you know what I mean. So yeah, and what do you guys think, Shubham, Mahesh, Rishabh?
So, like, I'm from Punjab, and yeah, as Musa said, like, uh, people speak Punjabi a lot and they take pride in Punjabi. Like, if I'm not able to speak fluent Punjabi, I'll be looked down upon actually. But yeah, as you go to the academic level, right, or like you talk with people about issues that are considered more complex or like more elite issues, you have to use English. because you'll be looked down upon if you use any other language, be it Hindi, be it Punjabi. They don't consider you very seriously. Then you have to use English then. And as Vandat said, yeah, correct. You have to use English perfectly. Otherwise, you'll just be brushed aside. Like your opinion doesn't matter if you don't know the language perfectly.
Yeah, so it's definitely a thing. Like I think that we all agree. But again, like as like there's a lot of different opinion on that, right? The regional language thing, especially in South, there's a lot of conversation about regional language, imposition of English, and there's also Hindi, right? Which one do you choose, right? And like if you listen to a lot of people like Professor Kancha Illaya, they're like, look, like they don't give preference to Hindi, like we rather learn English, especially Bahujans, right? Which they have been barred to learn English or any administrative languages. And even in the previous episode, how Rahe mentioned regional language we speak like Kannada, it's mostly Brahminized Kannada, and there also there's a elitism which side of Kannada you're speaking, right? So if you there's only right kind of Kannada, which is mostly Brahminical Kannada, and if you talk certain kind of Kannada, it's like, oh, which is considered local or something like that, which is mostly Bahujan oriented Kannada. Like there are a lot of authors in Kannada who weren't considered proper authors because their Kannada wasn't proper Kannada, which is Brahminized Kannada. So again, a lot of people resort to English, especially who are in. I'm from Bangalore, so it's mostly urban oriented. So I've seen a lot of urban Bahujans who just like resort to English rather than to sticking into the regional language because the kind of elitism which is showed by the upper caste people or something like that. So there's a complexity there, but again, not in a general sense, yeah, it's like if you speak English, you have a better kind of people perceive you as a most learned and everything.
Hmm. Thanks. Yeah, Rishabh.
So actually, I can add points to both of their points because I lived in Bangalore for almost 6, 7 years of my life, and like I just came from Bangalore to Punjab. I'm not, I'm not really in UP. I have left UP for quite some years now. So yeah, so in UP, it's like in the UP is also very divided. I'll be very honest. Like I lived in like NCR, so over there most of the people that I interacted with, and most of the people generally spoke English and Hindi both. And there was this I mean, obviously if you're going like everybody in your school would be talking in English, and everybody that like in your ghar mein to everybody would be talking in Hindi. So yeah, it was like just say again, school wale friends say you will talk in English, and ghar wale friends you will talk in Hindi. So it was like bilingual. Yeah. And actually when I was in Bangalore, I'll say this point that okay, so this is this point when you go online and you talk to people online, like maybe on I don't know, like all these dating apps, right, like Tinder and Grinder. So I would say that people in Punjab just message you in Punjabi, like they won't message you in English. Like this is so strange. Like in Bangalore when I was there, everybody would like write messages in English, and here everybody would just send you messages in Punjabi, and it's so difficult for, like they presume that you know Punjabi. So yeah, like I think Punjab is more Punjabi, and I think Bangalore is very like anglophone right now. Like it's everybody in because while I was living in Bangalore, like everybody spoke in English. Like it is a very anglophone of a city.
But would you say Bangalore is like
Yeah,
more cosmopolitan city than, let's say,
I
Chandigarh?
think Bangalore is the best place to live in. Like in India, if you like, this is something that happens to everybody who's gone to Bangalore. I want to retire in Bangalore. It's literally the best city in India right now. There is a best city in India.
Not anymore with the things which are happening currently in Karnataka.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I feel so bad. Like I feel like, what are you doing to my Bangalore, man? Like that was the. It was like Bangalore is like this UK, like just a UK or US में ये नहीं चलता रहता कि classes है UK and all that. Like I feel Bangalore people look at the rest of the India like that, like sipping tea and judging the rest of India for being
No, I think
uncivilized.
that's a facade, like Bangalorean this thing. So everyone who comes to Bangalore, they mostly interact with the upper caste side of Bangalore. And they only like I've seen like being in these communities. So like most of students who come in, they only
Yeah,
interact, or even
yeah.
in terms of city, they only interact in MG Road, Church Street, and Kormangla, which are the posher, Indranagar, the posher side of the town, and they rarely interact with the local communities, cafes, even restaurant or whatever. A lot of people who have lived here, like most of the people don't even know the language. If you come to like there are like heavily segregated, like how Buffalo Intellectual calls it, modern day apartheid. There are certain areas in Bangalore which Dalits cannot get houses, which are like very posh. These are the people whose sons are living in US or Europe or something like that. But at the same time, I can't get house for rent there. It's very interesting how Bangalore, but it mentions this facade that we are elite, we are like more cosmopolitan or something like that. I feel like it's only limited to certain
Got it.
areas or something like that. It's like what we project. Actually, thinking speaking of which, I think
Yes, please.
Vandit, I have a very
Yes,
interesting
please.
guest for you to talk about
Yeah.
this particular subject, who have done extensive study on this particular subject. I'll send them over once we're done. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a feature of every cosmopolitan city. Even in like Punjab, we have the same thing. Like in Chandigarh, you go, you there are areas that you cannot expect. Like there's an elite casteism there. Only upper caste people live in one area, and the non-upper caste lives in another area. So there's like a segregation to it. I think every cosmopolitan city in India has this feature now.
Actually, I would agree because I was living in RT Nagar, and in RT Nagar, the area that I was living in was actually, I don't want to say it, but I don't have, like, for lack of better words, it was like a Muslim ghettoized sort of an area. And I took a house over there because the rent was really cheap. So when I started living there, I realized it quite late that, like, everybody around me is from the same community, and and I felt like later I felt so bad that, oh my god, because I shifted from Indranagar to that area, and I was like, what, like, why is, like, a area just like that is just like Muslims, like that's it, like that there was an area where like 95% of the population was Muslim people living in that small area. So I was like, I agree to that point, like there is
Mhm.
definitely a ghettoization like that's happened in, like, cities like Bangalore.
Uh, Folks, one thing which I wanted to sort of understand from you is I am right now conceptualizing season three. While there are like one two recordings in place, where do you think I should take it? I mean, there are multiple ways I can take it. I mean, we all agree to the broader theme that the podcast is about, and that theme will remain more or less the same. Uh, should I get more? I think I do. I need, or should I get more professors on board, more scholarly folks on board? Should I get more activists on board? Should I take the podcast more international? Should I take it? Probably. Should I take it? Have more writers, authors on board? Do you want to get more to hear more lawyers or people from the law? Or do you want me to sort of go in the policy direction where we talk about specific policy measures and its impact? uh, what is your recommendation?
Yeah, sure. So I think yeah, the policy direction is very interesting one. I think it's also void that you have. Not many policy changes are explained in a digestible manner or for someone who is a layman. They'll want to have more conversations around policies, like very new policies are. I mean, there's a lot of it that does not make sense to me at the moment. I'll have to read a lot about it, and I don't get a clear picture. So hearing from someone who does have a great understanding of
Hmm.
things, I
So
think that will be
policy
very
measure
good.
is something which you are interested in, and I think should get more people from the policy circles on the podcast. But I would again take the
Yeah,
podcast in even in
definitely.
the sense where we specifically I would want to talk about the implication on various caste and communities of that policy, and I would have a caste lens to it. I would just not talk about a policy issue in isolation. So yes, so in that sense, if we will have to sort of have very very, because policy circle is also very upper caste, by the way. If you
Yeah,
recommend
great.
some, if you come across some
Definitely.
profiles, uh, do recommend there. Mahesh, what do you think?
I like the idea. Like, I think it should be the mixture of both. Like general social media activists to, like, as you mentioned, like author. I would really love to see more authors, and policy. This thing like people who are working in NGO. Like last year, Disha
Huh.
Wadekar and last season, Disha Wadekar and Nikita Surman episode were great. Like that was like a lot of things which I didn't understand on a fundamental level, right? So those were amazing. So some more people like that from the legal policy and maybe some more authors or something that would be very interesting.
Hmm. Musa, I know what will you say, but yes, I guess I know. I'm not sure, but yes, please.
No, I think you know
Yeah.
what I was gonna say, but I have one more thing to say. So the one thing that that I was gonna say was that you should have more, I think, people from Pakistan as well. And why I say it is not just for just to put like this title of India Pakistan bye, but I realized recently that so over Christmas I had so our mutual friend Indranil was here, and he invited two of his co-workers who were also from India. And when I was talking to them, they had absolutely no idea what's happening in Pakistan. And I think this is more of a trend that I see, unless you're from Punjab, because I think Punjab has a more direct stake in what is happening with Pakistan, because it's right on the border. So if the further away you are, I think the less you care about the issue in general, I would say. So I think it will be nice for people to kind of understand also what is happening in the country that is very often talked about on the news channels. And secondly, I think it would be interesting if you're doing policy issues or talking about a certain bill that is passed or caste issues. It would also be interesting to have people of opposing views
Huh.
uh, on the show, and for you to just being there as a as moderating it, kind of,
Yeah.
that would be interesting as well.
I'm really keen to have. That reminds me. Uh, um, some of you may follow this new upcoming Instagram account in at least in Ambedkarite circle, Ambedkarite Marxist. Have you follow that guy? That person, I don't know who they are, but I really want
I
to get
do.
them, and I thought it will be interesting to have sort of a Buffalo intellectual versus Ambedkarite Marxist sort of an episode. Yeah, but the thing about Musa, I'll tell you what. I would love to get people from Pakistan, and maybe we'll need some help in sort of navigating that space and understanding that like you don't end up getting the wrong person
Mhm.
on the show. Uh, uh, but
Mhm.
uh, but yes, I would keep that in mind. But the thing about this thing, na, yaar, that you take a backseat and you debate, let it do. I'm not sure. I mean, it's interesting. I'm not sure if that is my style. I have not explored it. What do you guys think? Do you think you'd like to do that?
Mhm.
Like that, some debate sort of. I don't know. Full masala, Rishabh, you're saying, huh?
If you're doing a debate, make it a video episode.
This is a full masala thing. Video पे लाओ, debate करो. The four windows already we have.
Uh,
इसके मुंह पे चाय गिरेगी.
I'm not sure about the debate thing, but to add to what Musa just said, I think more people from the Southeast Asia, right? Like I don't know what's happening in Nepal, right? So actually, I read this amazing article on Caravan, like the whole Hindutva project, how this extended into Nepal and everything, right? And Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. But I would like to know more about my neighbors, like I've been learning a lot about Pakistan, but I don't know much about Bangladesh or Nepal or Sri Lanka. Maybe more people from our more neighbors, like that would be very
That's a
fascinating.
good point here. I think I should have some sort of representation from South Asia for sure. Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. Mm.
I think it will be interesting if you can do like an
Mhm.
episode on what
Hmm.
is happening with SARC. That could be a good theme to invite people from around India, like
Mm.
from different
Yeah,
countries.
but that would become, I think, Musa, that would become a very, very like a typical New Delhi policy episode. What is happening in SARC? This is what it is doing. These are the measures that has happened. These are the resolution that has passed. Ha ha, sort of that way.
MUN
But I
type
think
ka.
the interesting part
Uh,
is that there are no measures that are happening. So, because there's only two countries
True.
that don't
no, SARC is
talk with
dead,
each
man.
other and they
SARC
just
is
destroy
100%
everything
dead.
else.
It does not. I think it's not even a formality anymore. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad.
And Rishabh, what's
It's
what's your
just
vision
sad.
for the podcast next year and suggestions?
I really enjoyed the podcast that you did with Sumaya Sheikh, right? In the beginning about the mentality of right wingers types. So I think that psychological sort of angle was very interesting to get into. So I think you could get those sort of people like researchers and stuff, and it was like it was a very interesting podcast to listen to. So I think, and after that, you've never had a guest like that. So I think more on
She's a
that
neuroscientist,
type of guests also you
and
can
she's
get.
doing
I don't know
some
what would you
research
call
on,
them, but yeah,
from what I could understand from my
yeah,
what I limited what I follow her, is there is certain patterns that all people from the ideology, from any ideology, who is towards the extremist or the radical side, uh, they sort of exhibit, and she is trying to sort of decode that. uh, but talking about psychology, there's one more episode. I don't know if you guys heard Abhilasha Bharti's episode or not. This was 48th episode. It was, you did,
I did.
Mahesh? How did you find it?
Yeah, I found it personally like actually that episode made me want to take therapy. Because especially one thing which you mentioned, which both of you mentioned, that a lot of there's a notion that there should be quote unquote something need to be wrong with you to, or like you need to going through something to take therapy, right? So sometimes you just need to know yourself. I was like, yeah, like I had this very wrong notion of therapy, right? Like even myself, like being so educated about mental health and everything, still I had that notion. I was like, hey, maybe I should try it out. So I'm trying to find a caste sensitive therapies at this point, which is really hard to do. But yeah, so that actually, and I did send it to a lot of my friends I know who are still in college or something like that. Who like, yeah, and thankfully it was mostly in English, so that was great.
Yeah, and Abhilasha is doing a great work in caste sensitive therapy. She's very young, upcoming, and I think she'll do a great job there. Uh, uh, really love her work, by the way. Uh, One question that I have all of you is, uh, I mean, you guys have spoken, like all of you have spoken great things about the podcast. I now I want you what I want you to do is I want you to critique the podcast, or critique me or my style or anything about the podcast.
Before I critique that, I want to give a shout out to the clips you put at the beginning, right? Like to a hook that you give at the starting.
Yeah,
Like they're really, really
I
well
agree.
curated. I
yeah,
mean,
dude. I
yeah,
will.
that's my shout
It's.
out to it.
I will tell you this.
Mm.
also the cover art that you do,
You
the
do
Definitely.
it
cover
Yeah.
yourself?
art of all of the podcasts, yeah, the artwork is really nicely done.
No, no, that is done by Arpit Soni. He's a designer based out of Indore. He is fantastic, dude, and he has given a life to the podcast through his art. I swear. I mean, I can't even imagine the podcast without. So there are two
Yeah,
parts to it. There is
yeah.
a the photograph which is sort of made of the guest
Yeah,
in a sort of a design format that is done by a separate the artist based out of in MP, Somin, and I give Arpit the photo, and I literally tell Arpit the name of the episode. That's all, and I do not even tell ki what is it about, what we have talked about. I just tell him the name. I just tell him okay, this is the guest. If he wants to look up the guest, barely I tell some information. Barely, ki, "Acha, this is what we have talked about. This is what you do," and then he sort of creates some sort of magic, man. I have no idea how he does that.
Uh, Also, I want to add a bit more to the artwork, this thing, obviously, which is like very interesting, very well made. Also, on a practical level, I actually revisit a lot of your podcasts, like as it's mostly education or something like that, right? Like to revisit certain parts of it or to send someone just to listen to that particular part. So it's very helpful. Like as I'm a visual person,
Yeah.
I don't like first thing. Yeah, it's really hard, very easy for me to go through this and like I see their faces, right? So very on a practical level, it works really well. Whereas like a lot on other podcasts where like I have to like okay
Yeah,
go through
read,
every
read,
this thing,
read.
right? So it's very helpful for me actually on a practical level as well.
I think the only critique I would have, which is I feel, which is a pro and a con from my personal choice, is the length of the podcast. If you're looking to broaden your listenership, I'm not saying that people don't listen to 3 4 hour podcasts because they clearly do, but I still feel there needs to be a sweet spot somewhere there.
Yeah, Unsa, the thing is, I know you are not the first person who has said this to me. And 3 hours, though, I don't think podcast goes. I think it just becomes it just I personally feel it's very impossible to just like the kind of subjects I'm picking
Mm,
up, it becomes very tough to do it in like 40-45 minutes. Yeah, you see the conversation we did today. Okay, this is what this is like a
mm,
normal chatting 4 or 5 people about how a podcast is, and we went on till like 1 hour 20 minutes. You edit it and like it will still be 1 hour 5 minutes. So I will keep that feedback in mind. I'll see if I can get a 30-minute episode or a 45-minute episode. But I have my worry is, will I be able to achieve that depth that I want to achieve or not? That is my worry.
So,
Shubham.
like, for me, the biggest critique would be your timestamps don't work. Literally.
Okay.
Like, I revisit your episodes sometimes, and like, I'll jump to that particular point in time, and no, they like you need to work on it, I think.
Dude, yeah, you're so right. Yeah, I know. Um, the it's also the process and also a little bit of so I'll tell you Shubham, how timestamps in it will not
Hmm.
work exactly, but it will work after
Yeah,
30-40 seconds from the
correct.
time I've mentioned. To in my defense, it is like okay, but yeah, that's a good feed. That's a good point. Yeah, of that I need to work on my timestamps. First, I mean, people gave me feedback that you should have timestamps. Then I started having timestamp, and I think I need to do it better. Mahesh, any critique that you can think of?
Nothing which I can think of right now. Maybe you should like focus more on like maybe marketing this kind, because there's some amazing content out there. Maybe it needs to just put out right on social media. I do follow your like Alex Kamra Azadi everywhere, right? But again, it's not that engaging enough. Apart from like you just post a episode this thing and that's it, right? Maybe a bit more like to add like sub content or something like that, which is
Yeah,
shareable sort of
yeah.
thing.
I have not been able to be very serious when it comes to the social media and marketing part of it. Yeah, I know
Mhm.
that has been my
Uh,
shortcoming.
just like to take it on a side, like the thing like you do mention in every episode that you are just like doing it on the side because you do have a full-time job. Like how like is it hard to kind of maintain the both thing and everything, editing the podcast and like also social media? You can't even like outsource it because that costs money again.
Yeah, yeah. You have identified the problem very well, Manish. I mean, I don't mean that it's not a solvable problem. I mean, I can figure out a way to
Mhm.
solve it. But yes, I mean, uh, because you are editing yourself, productioning everything you're doing on your own. Social media is something, yeah. So you become very natural in your content, like sort of how Anurag Manesarma is doing. You know, you post a content, you just do it every day, and that sort of drives audience to your show. Uh, but yeah, I'll keep that in mind. That can I do something more on social media? I want to personally. I really want to. I want that it should have a good listener base. Uh, let's see, maybe season three. Yeah, yeah. Rishabh, any critique that you have?
Actually, the point, the difficult part about speaking in the end is that सब लोगों ने सब कुछ बोल दिया होता है. Like, what do I add now to this? So I think, but I really feel that I think you should switch on to like a video format, because I personally feel that YouTube's algorithm pushes videos like audio visual sort of a format much more strongly than it pushes just an audio format, because at the end of the day YouTube does not want to be a podcast wala platform, it wants to be an audio visual
Hmm.
platform.
Yeah.
So I think video would really impact you in the algorithmic sense of YouTube. And also app, like you should look into, like, there are so many these dumb podcasters, I don't know, like really like they'd be like talking about really मतलब वो बहुत ही कैसे समझाऊं, बहुत ही irrelevant होती हैं वो कल्चरली इंडिया के लिए चीजें ना, like the people who are podcasting, they're like Indian podcasters, so talking very irrelevant things about like the country, and like which is not relevant to the people. So they like have these live, मतलब वो live record करते हैं, and they just put it like just cut these names, okay, but like you guys must have seen these like Shweta, Gang War, and all of those dumb sort of like guys sitting and like talking really
I have
culturally
not.
insensitive bullshit stuff. Anyways, so yeah, like so they just go live and they just like dump it on the internet. So like it's not like you need to really edit it also, like, because I mean they never edit it, and it's like I mean अगर edit करना होता तो आधी से ज्यादा podcast कटती उनकी. So like I think I think like you're being very serious when it comes to like the video part of it कि आपको उसको edit करना पड़ेगा. I don't think so. You need to edit it. Like you need to not go into that nitty gritties of editing the video part of it because other people are not editing it. They're just dumping it like that.
I will not censor that name, by the way, Rishabh. Just saying, I would want to keep it.
No, actually, I am also trying to like do my own YouTube thing, so I don't want to like call out name before like, and like have these beefs because they're like really. I mean, you can just put it out there because anyways they'll know that I don't like them eventually, like because they're like they. So there was this thing that this guy said which like really pissed me off. Okay, so there was this one podcast and he's like, "Ki I need to see an Indian left winger or an Indian communist or something." He said, I'm like, "Are, matlab, India has like one of the oldest communist party and like everybody obviously critiques it. And then like the left culture of India has like BSP and all of these like, you know, like so much like Azad Samaj party and like there's so much leftism that's happening like and the entire Periyar movement in the south and everything. I mean, how could you like just like say that India does not have a left? Like I mean, I just feel like they just talk out of their asses and just dump their videos. So yeah, what I feel is ki, I mean, you can sort of do the video bit. Like you don't have to be so like you know this thing. क्या कहते हैं उसे इतना serious नहीं होना चाहिए कि you have to edit it and stuff. Yeah, because these people are like the others like who are your competition are not really that good.
I don't know, man, who's the competition, honestly. Mahesh, you're a video guy. What do you think about it?
I do agree with Rishabh's point in terms of like people like to see like there are certain people who like to see interviews or something like that. But on it, because you're a one man team, I think that's gonna be hard to do because like to edit it, it's really hard. Like if like visually and everything, audio you can just like crop it off and then it's easier to transition them. But with video, you have to do a lot of jugaad and even the production cost money. If it's not just like a webcam, if you're like doing it in person, if you switch to that, that's going to cost a bit more
Yeah,
money
for
and
sure.
some technical awareness. But I'm just brainstorming here. But again, I think video you definitely should do because I think video is a medium. Even Instagram is promoting video. But at this point, I just got an idea. It's like it doesn't have to be from a podcast. It can be an individual like offshoot of Lights Camera Asagi, or like maybe 5 to 10 minute episodes, which are like you're just filming about certain small topic, which is visual. So it's like some different what do you call it, episode or like some this thing, right? And then you can release those, and then you can say, hey, I have a podcast as well, right? Maybe you can shoot some shorter this thing which is about a certain topic, very short, that kind of thing. That's what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
which is going to be way easier to handle in terms of technicality.
Hmm. That is a good feedback.
I have like one question for you. Like how has your own understanding of your country changed since you started podcasting?
Great question here. I had a good understanding. I mean, uh, I was never one of those guys who believed that India is the best country in the world and we don't have any problems. So to begin with, that was not the case. I did identify that there are some problems, but what I think changed massively was I thought that one of the core problems of India is the Hindu-Muslim divide, and I was exceptionally wrong there. I mean, it is, and I mean, it's not denying that Islamophobia or anti-Muslim bias or all these things are not sort of dividing the society, but it is not the problem. And after doing so many episodes, I would pin the problem is the caste problem, and that is what changed. And the seriousness with which I started taking this problem in my own head, uh, and the kind of lenses it gave me, uh, it uh, it changed a lot. I mean, earlier it would be there would be sort of an uh, I mean, an empathy somebody from a if they are from a minority religion, that is still there. But within that minority religion, now I have more nuances that okay, maybe that person that I'm looking to is also from an upper caste background in that minority religion. So maybe they have a lot of privilege and power in that minority religion, but they also have there are people in that religion who are facing some more serious issues. as well. So this is what I think was a very interesting thing that sort of helped me uh, change. Also, I had this sort of uh, belief that you know generally I had this notion way before that there is BJP, which is nationalist, or RSS, which is nationalist. There is obviously who generally I had this right and left binary a lot in my head, sort of, to that okay, there is right, there is left, that's all. So I realized that anybody who is a sort of not part of BJP is by default liberal and by default left, and these are the two ideologies that we have. And then I was just like, it was the tip of the iceberg, and I was so damn wrong that binary like does not make sense. And sometimes I would say Ambedkarites not taking part in RSS BJP fights or whatever. I mean, because it I mean, to one level, yeah, it is like you you Congress BJP, you are all the same to us. I mean, what's the difference? uh, so having this nuance in head, that okay, you know for example, if there is is a very good a writer or an intellectual based out of Ashoka University, that doesn't mean that they are fiercely anti-caste, or just because they are anti BJP, that doesn't mean that they are from the anti-caste discourse. So that realization was very important, uh, and these are some things that I realized from my podcast. Any other questions you guys have for me?
How is it like over the last 2 years? How has your immediate friends and family have reacted? Like, do they listen to it? If they do, like, have some people change their opinion over the time out? Like, how has that been?
Yeah, I have. So it I'll tell you the way it started. When I started this, people thought it's an impulse reaction towards the citizenship movement, and this is like an add-on to the protest, which was true, but they had no idea about my vision, or what I want to take this to, where will I go from here, and what is my thoughts around it. Obviously it changed, shaped with time, but they initially they had no idea, so they did not took it seriously. And a lot of them, I think, I mean, they were appreciative, many of them, that you started a podcast, but they sort of also dismissed it कि यार तुम तो वही anti BJP दिखाओगे. But to their surprise, I mean, there have been barely a few episodes which we have openly talked about, like electoral politics. I can pick up like literally like 4 episodes maybe, or 5 maximum, where we have talked about electoral politics. But we did went deep into ideology. So family don't listen to it. Immediate family, maybe they do listen to it. Wife does not listen to it at all. Just she has like, she just knows there is a recording, and she just knows there is a launch. So she had like no idea about the content. She says that I'm not a long form audio podcast person. So I said, okay, that's completely fine, and I will bear with this. uh, a
Mhm.
lot of friends who typically have seen me put constant content, so they have sort of started respecting it, and now they introduce me with their friends that he has a quote unquote popular podcast, which I often say it's not that popular, to be honest. And so People have sort of identifying me with the podcast. Also, when I was interviewing for my current job, in between that, they suddenly asked a question, oh, do you run a podcast, by the way? So that has sort of also started to be, and even like my folks at my current job knows that I do a lot of podcast and I have experience in podcasts. uh, to be very specific, have people changed? I don't know. Also, because Mahesh, I'll tell you something, there are many silent listeners also of the podcast who don't engage with me, who don't who just don't reply on YouTube or social media or Twitter or my Instagram. Even some of my closest friends listen to my podcast very sort of religiously, from what I know, but they don't engage with me. They don't even bloody share it on their Instagram, yeah, for like, for the heck of it. I don't know why this attitude. I mean, maybe I have no idea. But they will tell me something that they would have heard. For example, my one of the very good friends from college heard Buffalo Intellectual podcast. He's a Deshast Brahmin. And he said, "Yeah, that guy was saying ki there should be 85% reservation." He sort of, I don't know, he misinterpreted or what. But what Buffalo was saying that, see, there is only 49% reservation, but Bahujans accommodate to 85% of the population. This is very unscientific. So he got very angry. He said, this guy is saying 85% quota milna chahiye. तूने उसको रोका क्यों नहीं? Why didn't you stop him? You should have stopped him. I said I agreed with him. so, so that is when like they slip up. So once in a while somebody would say, but there are many silent listeners as well. So even in while getting the 50th episode, people, I had to like sort of like it was not, had this been any other popular podcast, I mean there would be like 50 100 entries. But like with you guys, like you were literally the ones who showed interest, that's all. And maybe one or two more, I don't think so, yeah, nobody else. So there is something which is with the engagement there. I don't know, I need to improve on that.
Vandit, I'll add to this. Like actually, na, what I personally feel is कि मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि people are scared that they'll
Mm-hmm.
offend somebody. Like कि they'll say something which is
Mm-hmm.
out of line or like which is wrong.
Hmm.
This is what personally I feel, because this is the reason I am still, while I'm talking, I'm like कि मैंने कुछ तो भी उल्टा सीधा बोल दिया है, because I have not been like from the arts background, and I have literally not studied like any of these books. Like I studied Ambedkar like 2 years back is when I started reading, like literally reading books other than what I've ever read.
Hmm.
So like, and the first book I read was like Annihilation of Caste by like Ambedkar ji, and then I kept reading, and like I've been reading after that. But even till now, like I feel that I'll say something which would be wrong, or which would be offensive, or which would be like, somewhere down the line insensitive to someone, because at the end of the day, like there are so many layers to the conversation that you really need to be brainy to talk about this. So and researched and well researched in this field to talk about this. So yeah, so I think because of this, a lot of people would stay away from talking. It's like they're educating themselves through your podcast, and not really like they don't have anything to add to it. They're sort of learning from it.
What do you guys think?
100%.
I agree with
Yeah,
what he's saying, like,
definitely.
especially the
I think
last
it's
point.
also funny in the sense that we all, I think personally as well, we think that अगर हम कुछ कहेंगे तो पता नहीं लोग क्या सोचेंगे. In the same sense, people don't really give a shit. I would say, because they just listen and they move on in general. But maybe it's because of our background, the society we grow up in, we feel as if it will be a very big backlash of some sort. But at the same time, now I think I'm in.
No, I
Um,
personally don't want to be insensitive. Like, I personally would not want to be insensitive, because I sort of feel that coming from some sort of an oppressed identity myself, like I sort of feel that, to say something that might hurt anybody is like why would you do that? Like, why would you want to hurt somebody?
yeah, but I, I feel as if whenever you will talk, you are bound to hurt one or two people. Like if, especially if you're talking about, say for example, this issue that you said about this guy who was saying,
Hmm.
"उसने ये कहा तो तूने उसे रोका क्यों नहीं?" So
Yeah.
like it's like if you're gonna say anything, especially if it's more leaning towards our beliefs, or I guess which we feel is more honest view of things, it's definitely going to piss off some people. But at the same time, I think if it pisses off those people, that's more of insecurity from them that they need to look into themselves. But that's what I feel. But I agree with you. Like you should filter out the message in a way that you try to make it as less insensitive as possible. So yeah, that's what I
Hmm.
think.
People want to be politically correct, but also like taking a step back here, like for example, Musa is like, I had no idea he is a listener, dude. Forget about like being an avid listener. And when I don't know, Indranil mentioned, our mutual friend mentioned this to you or not, but when I received your response, I actually cross-checked with Indranil that are you listening or are you just trolling me? uh,
इतना मुझे
he
मैसेज
said
आया
that,
था कि are you
क्या
actually
बोला?
listening, or is just are you just giving him an ego boost?
Uh, so had I not really released that form, I would have never known that Musa, who is also a friend, is listening to my podcast. And he did said like he has heard 30 episodes, and I was like, wow, how is that? Like, how the hell Musa has heard so many episodes, and Musa has never sort of engaged with Lights Camera Azadi as a brand or me on this topic,
Yeah,
uh, which is I completely fine. I mean, it's completely fine, but I'm saying there are more people like Musa. I'm sure. What do you think, Musa? Why would this be the case? But generally, trying to understand a listener persona.
I think
That's all.
this goes back into your branding as well, and how many
Okay. Hmm.
engaging content you are sharing. I think that because, I mean, yeah, I see that you post a new episode. Okay, so what should I do with it? So there's no, for example, hook
Hmm.
as into, it's not click. There's no like action to click, for example, to click on it or to
Hmm.
maybe you, for example, just brainstorming as well. Like you have some questions, or the point is raised in a conversation, and then you make specific material with that point. What do you feel about this? So I mean, initially it will be the same that maybe हम चाह रही हैं जो reply कर रहे होंगे हर वक्त, but initially it will start growing. People will start saying, okay, so
Hmm.
this is what I think, this is what I think. So I think it has to be more clickable content creation.
Yeah, that's a good feedback. I think I will just now post it like, what do you think about this particular issue? This is what Bhavar Meghvanshi said on this issue. What do you think? What is your take? I think, and people love to give sort of gyan anyway.
And add in the back like dun 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 dun.
Yeah, yeah, dude. So I'm assuming here there are no more questions for me at least, or any other thoughts there.
Yeah,
Yes.
basically the process that you navigate through this conversation, right? Like you have conversation with a certain person and you'll have like 2 to 3 hours of conversation. How do you navigate through it? Like I know you must have some questions ready. Like this is my ready reckoner. I'll ask these questions. But still, how do you go about it? The conversation can flow anywhere, right?
Huh. So I let it flow anywhere. I have my set of talking points, more like broad questions, 8, 10, like the talking points I gave you all on the email. And then once the guest starts speaking, I sort of start writing my own questions, which immediately pop up in my head. Like, for example, when you
Mm-hmm.
all of you were speaking, I did not plan this question that critique the podcast, but it just popped up in my head, or I did not plan to ask that how is this podcast different from other podcasts you have heard. It just popped up in my head while you guys were speaking, so I was just taking notes, and I ensured that whenever the existing conversation sort of takes a pause or stops the existing dialogue, I would just, this is my next immediate question, that is I'm ready with it. And broadly, if I'm speaking to, so let's say, a writer like Bhamarji, I would read their book completely, uh, which I realize is still a very low benchmark, because when I was speaking to Amit Verma, he said that he not just reads the book that he's talking about, but he reads all the books that the author has written uh, before they sort of come on an interview. So I read the book. I typically read it on the iPad, and that is where sometimes I need your help, Shubham. and and then I take notes. I keep those notes in a Word document with me when I'm doing the interview, along with the set of questions. So that's how I sort of navigate the conversation, and I know what I want to achieve from the podcast. And the good part of being the host here is that, you can take the conversation where you want. Uh, so I let them speak, but I also sort of take it in a direction where I want it to go.
So one question that I have, like, and like it's to Vandit you specifically, and I would like to know it from Mahesh as well because he's sort of been really active in the Ambedkarite circle. So I would like to know how much space can rightfully like person hold. Like this is something that keeps coming to me because when I actually look into any social issue, and obviously the subject of caste really comes into it. And then if we talk about it, like how much space can a rightfully a person hold, like because I come from a almost like a third generation educated bahujan person, so how much space do I actually have to hold into this discussion? Like this is something that I personally feel like is a question that like we could talk upon.
I don't know,
Like,
to be honest. And I'm not the right person as well. Mahesh, do you have some thoughts there?
Um, Again, I might be wrong as well, but one thing I recently read from Sumit Samos, who was also a guest in the episode, he had made a series of posts about like how the phrase anti-caste ally doesn't make sense. It's also what is that? It's a borrowed thing from West, like it's like how we borrow feminism, veganism, or whatever without understanding social realities. The idea of anti-caste ally implies that. Caste issue is just a Bahujan or like Dalit tribal issue, and we are just allies here. And I agree with that. This thing was like it doesn't make sense because it's your issue as well. I don't know who said this, but caste is a Brahmin issue, not a Dalit issue. So in terms of that, like whenever somebody says it's we're an ally, like a lot of times I had this kind of hesitancy, like because like they're dealing with caste in their own sense. So I don't think referring to themselves as an ally might not be the best way to look at it. It kind of like others the whole caste discourse. We're just here to support whatever. Again, that's one of the reasons what I like about One This podcast is that it's not like especially that episode with the Bani Echo Chamber. It doesn't just talk about atrocities or whatever, just day-to-day realities, right? Like how our social circles are formed or whatever. I think it's mostly had to do with going back to our own family and introspecting it. That's the major thing. Like that's where you can start. But again, there's a lot of layers to it, even which I might not know.
And the way I'm looking at it is, and I have thought about this question as well, that okay, what is so Rishabh, the way I frame this question in my head is okay, what is the role that I have to play here? So the role that I have to play here is to take this conversation in my community and make my community, like Mahesh rightly said, it's not a Bhujan problem, it is an upper caste problem. And even Bhavarji says this, ki it has been almost 100 years uh, since, since Bhujan movement has been happening in India, since the time Ambedkar has been active. And to phrase exactly what he says, and his line still remains in my head, that अब 100 साल हो गए हम दलित बहुजनों को लड़ते हुए, एंड अब ये हमारी लड़ाई नहीं है, अगर अब सवर्ण समाज को बदलना है तो ये उन्हें खुद लड़ना पड़ेगा. सो दैट इज व्हाट ही सेज, दैट इट्स नॉट आवर जॉब एनी मोर, इट इज अ प्रॉब्लम, ये आपकी प्रॉब्लम है, दिस इज आवर प्रॉब्लम, दिस इज माई प्रॉब्लम, दिस इज बनिया कम्युनिटी, जैन communities, Goyal, Agarwals, and the Sharma's problem. And that is the role that I have to play. So, if Rishabh, you are thinking of playing a role, I think you need to understand that what is, while fighting for your rights as a as a Bahujan, you also need to understand that what are the areas where maybe the Gurjar community is oppressing, uh, and take the conversation forward in the Gurjar community. That is how I look at it. Mahesh, you had a question before we were speaking on this topic.
Actually, also one more thing which I want to add. I'm
Yeah.
just getting used to you talking in a normal speed because I'm like so used to listening to your voice in 1.5 speed. So that's how I go through your long podcast. So
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah. People listen at 2x, 3x for sure. Yeah. Even I listen at 1.2, 1.5. Yeah, Mahesh.
mm, yeah. So like initially when we were talking about our favorite episodes, right? We were talking about this is numbers and that did numbers. And what does that mean to you? Like when you say numbers, right? It can be a very materialistic thing at the same time. Like you wanted to reach out to more people or something like that. Like what does that mean to you when you say this particular episode did this much numbers and it didn't do as much as I expected? How do you see that?
So numbers means everything to a content creator. Uh, because numbers to me is reach. That how many people heard my podcast, how many people downloaded it. For podcast, the very common metric is downloads of the podcast, or followers and everything. All of these things are sort of secondary. Uh, but how many people are you reaching as a content, purely speaking, as a content creator, is what matters. And how do I take this conversation to 1,000, 10,000, 50,000, 1 lakh people, a million people? That is the challenge of a content creator, especially of a long form podcast who is doing it part time. So yeah. And whatever monetization I will gain, it will only happen once I achieve a certain reach. Otherwise, it is, even if it is sort of donations and people contributing to it, uh, it cannot happen until I reach like a significant higher amount.
But I personally feel, Vandit, you should not look at the metric of this views and all of these downloads and stuff so strictly, because you have to also understand the amount of people who are enlightened enough to come to a podcast like this. Because if you compare it to some like any random video or any random podcast, like what like the bar of entry for people into those sort of content is very low. And it's like brainless content that they just consume, but here it's almost like an education process. So for here in a podcast like this, I think you should not be looking at it in those parameters, because the bar of entry becomes really high over here, because the person needs to be educated, and then that person needs to be active in these circles, and then you get my point, right?
I do get your point, but I don't. Do you guys think the barrier of entry is relatively high here? But I do understand that only selective people or selective crowd would like this content. Mm, yeah, maybe. It's maybe not for everyone. Sometimes I feel, yes, it's not for just every person.
Isn't that, isn't that true for every kind of content?
That's also true for every kind of content.
No,
I
there's so much of content that you could just consume, like in the sense, like so much brainless content, right, which goes trending, especially on YouTube India, like all of that. Like if you compare the barrier of entry on that content and the content like this, where you need to be aware, you need to have like a certain amount of like ability to change yourself and evolve as a person. So I think it is like the barrier of entry is higher over here.
Also, you're not pulling any punches, right? Because the content this is like sorry, one example would be Buffalo Intellectual would be considered one of the biggest voices in Ambedkarite circles, right? And he's very well known among the Ambedkarite circles. But if you see in terms of a quote unquote social media language, he just has 20K followers, which is in terms for a Bahujan run, this thing is a lot.
Exactly.
But at the same time, if you see in terms of just on social media, it's irrelevant. Just in terms of number. So, but the impact what Buffalo Intellectual has made to the whole Bahujan community and the discourse and everything, I think that's especially in terms of this whole quote unquote digital Dalits, what they call so Bahujan movement in terms of digital this thing. Like I think it's been prominent his voice. So I think it's mostly in terms of that. What impact does it have? So I think the Life Camera Azadi and Anurag Minus Warma podcast and other podcasts, they kind of play into this kind of ecosystem where like it does add certain things to it. It doesn't have to be the thing.
I think Mahesh explained it much better than what, but yeah, this is what I was trying to say, that the impact that the podcast has is much wider than just the metric.
Great, everyone. I think this was a very, very memorable and insightful conversation. Cannot thank you, all of you, enough for taking out time and contributing to the 50th episode of Lights Camera Azadi. Thank you, Shubham, Mahesh, Musha, and Rishabh, for being on the show. This was a great, 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 and amazing, memorable
Thank you,
conversation.
Vandit, for having us here.
Thank you, Vandit,
Yeah,
for
thank
having
you.
me here.